Good evening, everyone. I'm doing another devotional today. This one is going to be the parable of the prodigal son. It's in Luke 15, verses 11 through 32. I'll go ahead and read. And he said, "There was a man who had 2 sons, and the younger of them said to his father, 'Father, give me the share of property that is coming to me.' And he divided his property between them. Not many days later, the younger son gathered all that he had and took a journey into a far country. And there he squandered his property in reckless living. And when he had spent everything, a severe famine arose in that country, and he began to be in need. So he went and hired himself out to one of the citizens of that country, who sent him into his fields to feed pigs. And he was longing to be fed with the pods that the pigs ate, but no one gave him anything. And when he came to himself, he said, 'How many of my father's hired servants have more than enough bread, but I perish here with hunger? I will arise and go to my father, and I will say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Treat me as one of your hired servants.' And he arose and came to his father. But while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and felt compassion, and ran and embraced him and kissed him. And the son said to him, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son.' But the father said to his servants, 'Bring quickly the best robe, and put it on him, and put a ring on his hand and shoes on his feet, and bring the fatted calf and kill it. Let us eat and celebrate. For this my son was dead, and is alive again. He was lost and is found.' And they began to celebrate. Now his older son was in the field, and as he came and drew near to the house, he heard music and dancing. And he called one of the servants and asked what these things meant. And he said to him, 'Your brother has come, and your father has killed the fatted calf for him, because he has received him back safe and sound.' But he was angry and refused to go in. His father came out and entreated him. But he answered his father, 'Look, these many days I have served you, and I have never disobeyed your command. Yet you never gave me a young goat, that I might celebrate with my friends. But when this son of yours, who has devoured your property with prostitutes, he came and you killed the fatted calf for him.' And he said to him, 'Son, you are always with me. All that is mine is yours. It was fitting to celebrate and be glad. For this, your brother was dead and is alive. He was lost and now he's found.'" So this parable is about a father and 2 sons. So it's 3 people here. First, immediately when we read this parable, we see that the younger son, he is what we would probably recognize as being a sinful person, a rebellious person. Immediately, he tells his dad, "Father, give me the property that's coming to me." So this right here is like telling his own dad, you're dead to me. I just want your stuff. Give it to me and let me go." And he takes his stuff and he leaves. And then we see things don't go so well for him. So he's feeding pigs, and he wants to eat what the pigs eat, which is telling in itself, because pigs to Jewish people at this point were considered an unclean animal. You don't mess with pigs. You don't touch them. But here, he wants to eat what the pigs eat. He wants to be with the pigs. But then he comes to his senses. When he comes to his senses, he repents, because he comes to himself and he wants to go back to where his father was. So he's switching direction so that he can go be with his father again. And he wants to apologize to his father and just be a servant to him. But when his father sees him as he's still on his way home, the father runs out to him and he goes to get him himself. And when he goes to get him, he gives him a ring, he gives him the robe, he gives him shoes, and he kills a fatted calf for him. Now, the older brother is furious at what's going on here, because he knows his younger brother was not a very good person, right? He takes everything that he has, that his dad has for him, his own inheritance, he takes it and leaves. So everything that is at the house now, it really belongs to the older brother. And as a result, since the father is giving his younger son his older brother's stuff, the older brother is just furious. And he wants to know what's going on. And when the dad comes back out to retrieve him, to bring him back into the house, the older brother tells us what's wrong with him. Now, the point here is both sons were alienated from the father. They were both distant from him, but they both wanted to get what the father had. See, they both wanted the father's things, but they didn't want the father, right? So the younger son, he shows that he just wants his father's things by taking his things and leaving. The older brother shows that he just wants his father's things through his obedience, right? Because the father, when he goes to get him, the older brother says he won't go into the house because he says, "I have never disobeyed you." It's his own pride that's keeping him from going to the Father's house. He's very moralistic here. So both sons wanted what the father had, but they didn't want the father, right? And the ways that they lived their lives were just ways of getting what they wanted. The younger son repents though, and he comes back to the father. And he just comes back as saying, I want to be a servant. The older brother stays out. At least we don't see ultimately what he does, because this passage doesn't tell us. But the whole point of this is, again, just being a good person is not going to get you the Father. Your desire has to be for the Father. The younger son came back, and he was brought back into the house. And he was given a robe and everything because he repented, and he just wanted his father. Even if he had to live as a servant for his father, he wanted his father. But the older son still, at least until the end that we see here, he didn't want the father. He wanted to get what he wanted. He wanted the father's things, but he was going about it by doing what he thought was the right way to do it. So what we have here is an example of how we can get to God. In this parable, the father represents God. And the way that we can get to God is not by doing good things and not by trying to live our best life and running away. The way that we get to the Father is by wanting the Father. And this has become possible for us. We can have the Father. We can be in the Father's presence because of what our older brother, Jesus, what he's done for us. Jesus gave us his robe. And Jesus became the fatted calf so that we could be brought into his house. Jesus himself became the fatted calf so that we can celebrate in the Father's house. So, with that said, let's go give him heaven.